6 o'clock is great.
I know, that's what I'm ready to. I think it's 6 o'clock.
Everybody was.
Meeting is called to order. A quorum has been established, and under the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551, specifically 074, 072. Thought I saw another one. 1, 2, and 4. Okay, we will now adjourn and go into closed session. Okay. All right, we're ready for closed session. couple.
Do you have any cards?
Is there anything else that would help you?
Not
Two
so
meetings
far.
in a row.
Huh?
That's 2 meetings in a row.
No, I didn't quit. It's going to take Tracy back this week. Yeah. But I was complaining over 5 o'clock trying to get back over here. So now I know what time it is. Yeah. I wasn't near as bad as that. Yeah.
Oh, where did Miss Valdy go? Is that clock? Mine says 57. We came out, we had 2 more minutes. Still got 2 minutes. We could have stayed a little bit longer.
You have their rapt attention.
We will have.
He said he wouldn't, he'd be here.
Just a few minutes.
Good evening. It is now 7 o'clock, and we are now reconvening into open session. Thank you so much for being here. Please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do I hear a motion to consider the personnel recommendations that we considered in closed session? It's been moved by Ms. Latham, seconded by Mr. Ferguson. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. I guess awards. Do we have awards? Dr. Burnett, you have awards this evening?
We have a presentation from Encore. Do we have a representative here from Encore? Where's Mr. Williams? Do we have? It's our understanding that we were going to have a representative from Encore. Evidently, they're not here, so we
Okay.
can move on to the next item.
Thank you. Maybe we can put it on next month. I have 3 cards, speaker cards. Persons desiring to address the board must fill out a speaker's card prior to the meeting. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included in the agenda. The first card name is Jeffrey Colbert.
and the benefits of the LEAP program and the opportunities and challenges it presents to those involved. While I fully understand the budget constraints placed on the LISD by the current economic situation and recent state budget decisions, I find it troubling that the LEAP classes were selected as a means of cutting costs. The academic challenges, along with the targeted curriculum, has been, in my opinion, a valuable tool in shaping our children and preparing them to succeed in the future. In closing, I humbly ask that the board revisit and reconsider the decision to eliminate LEAP classes from the LISD. Thank you.
We don't normally say anything, but I have to comment on that one because I don't know anything about us cutting LEAP program. Dr. Waddell? Into that.
According to state law, we can only state matters of fact.
Okay. We will check into that. Thank you.
Me, as a matter of fact, however, say, we're not doing away with gifted and talented programs. So if anyone infers that, that's not happening.
Our second person is Bethany Colbert.
My name is Bethany Colbert, and for the past 9 years of my education, I've been a member of LEAP classes in the LISD school district. I understand that you wish to expand the GT program, but I'm not entirely sure that placing students, GT students into a pre-AP classroom with the pre-AP teacher, I understand that they will be aware of how GT students have individual needs that are different from pre-AP students. But I don't feel that having a pre-AP teacher teaching two different needs of student would be the most effective way of expanding the GT program. And in addition to that, the LEAP classes in LISD are more than a class to many of the students in there. It's a very close and personal relationship that we get to build with students who maintain being in the program for a long period of time. And I think that the stability and the sense of family that comes with being a member of the LEAP classes means a lot to many of the students. And in conclusion, I feel that it would be in the students' best interest to continue having LEAP remain a separate class from pre-AP. Thank you.
Next, Kelly Mullen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Mullen, and I'm a freshman at Hebron High School, currently enrolled in the LEAP program, the Learning Enriched Academic Program. It's been a big part of my life for 7 years now, and I'm here today to share my opinion on why LEAP classes should not be deleted from LASD schools. From my knowledge and from my research from my emails, I figure the plan for next year is to expand the LEAP program by putting LEAP kids together with pre-AP and AP kids in a class where the teacher would teach to both styles of learning at once. According to the Texas State Gifted and Talented website, differentiation is defined as modifying curriculum and instruction according to content, pacing, and/or product to meet unique student needs in the classroom. In this situation, LEAP students are the unique students who long to be pushed to learn and grow mentally. Only in this class do I find that getting good grades is the cool thing to do. We've bonded through this class, and from this relationship, we can push each other to be educated. I have to wonder why someone would want to take this class away. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda, the sale of refunding and refunding of the bonds. Dr. Burnett? What page is that
Thank you, Ms. Gregg. As we had discussed briefly with you back in the fall, that we would be looking into another bond sale, and we also have the opportunity to take advantage of the bond market and look at some refunding. We've asked John Martin with Southwest Securities to come forward and give you kind of an overview of what we're talking about. And we are thinking that that this is something that might happen in early to mid-April, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it.
Thanks, Dr. Burnett. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Martin with Southwest Securities. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening. As Dr. Burnett said, we're really in kind of a phase 2 or step 2 of new money bond issuance for this year. We took advantage of some low rates, popped in the market, and did, as you'll recall, primarily for the we're calling West Side Aquatic Center, the west side of the district. I don't know what you've named it, but anyway, that was really the seed money for that, get that started, and some other various projects and so forth. So that 30 million piece. We now are looking at, and you may recall that we had talked about that there were some refunding opportunities. There were some bonds that are eligible to be called away from the bondholder on August 15th of this year. So, not to bore you with a bunch of tax law stuff, but we can do that up to 90 days before that August 15th day, deliver the bonds. So we could sell bonds in April, deliver the bonds in mid-May, and be able to refund out of those bonds. Those bonds are bearing rates of close to 5%, a little under 5%, and we're going to replace them with bonds, knock on wood, that the market holds between now and April, of somewhere in the high 2s. So pretty amazing. What that also does for you is, in the new money part of it, is the refunding from those bonds that are eligible for refunding. Then we're also going to take some bonds that we can refund next year, but we're going to escrow for those bonds because there's a bunch of savings in there, up to around $9 to $10 million. What we're going to do is we'll leverage that into new money and to where it will not impact the tax rate. So we're going to take the savings, take advantage of the market, take that $8, $9, $10 million and roll that into the new money piece. So depending on where the market is at the time, when we sell bonds in April, we could be able to do $60 to $75 million and be able to have that tax rate around the 42-cent level. Now, you may recall in your agenda packet that Dr. Burnett referred to it, is the voter information that was distributed to voters projected a tax rate, INS, remember we just talked about INS here, of 43 cents. So we still got a penny of wiggle room. We're not having to go to the full 43, and we still get a significant amount of money. If we're able to do $70 million, that's $100 million worth of projects that we're able to do for our kids this year. So extremely low rate. So it's a great time. If we have to borrow money, it's a great time to borrow money. So again, the schedule is, this is really an informational item tonight, and we'll come back to you. We're going to be talking to the Bond Oversight Committee here next week and work through prioritization of projects to come back to you with. And then the plan is to, at your first part of April meeting, I believe that's April 2nd, we'll be coming to you with an opportunity to sell those bonds at that time and deliver the bonds in May. I'm happy to answer any questions.
If I remember, you're saying we're going to average about $750,000 in savings per year then on INS payments, basically?
Yeah, it's and I think that's conservative. I mean, we've run some numbers anywhere at $900,000 a year. So I mean, it's massive.
And a penny is about $1 million, if I remember correctly. A penny INS tax rate. Dr. Burnett.
About $2 million per penny.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's going to save almost
half a penny. You
Yeah,
know, that's what
good.
we're gaining there. So that's
Yeah.
be able to roll that into projects. That's great with no impact on the tax rate.
Yeah.
We're anticipating that those funds will be used to start up the two ninth grade centers, as well as to continue to fund technology upgrades as well as deferred maintenance.
And we won't be extending the final maturity from where we are now either, which is kind of cool.
Before we earmark those savings, I would like to have a discussion on what we do with them instead of just put them into a capital account and decide we're going to spend that money.
Okay.
Dr. Burnett, summer hours.
We bring this item to you as an informational item to let you know what we're planning for the schedule this summer, as we have, as the district has done in the past, and this will be the summer schedule with modified hours, and we'll still preserve the ability of our new construction and our facility services to set different hours to deal with the various contractors and the various issues that they have with the buildings during the summer. But we just bring this to you as an informational item.
Thank you. Any questions, anyone?
What are you planning on changing from previous years?
There's not really anything that I'm aware of. That's just a reflection of what we're going to be doing.
It looks like you get some savings out of this. Saying to
We did
9,000.
try to quantify the potential savings in electricity costs, utility costs, and at least put that number out so we could look at it.
Well, I have the summer off, so I'm not jealous anymore. You guys can work 4 days a week if you want.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Riddell, the dual language program update.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to introduce Dr. Leslie Lewis, who is going to make a presentation, and I want to thank the 9 principals and 1 assistant principal who are in attendance this evening to show support for the work that they've been doing this year.
It's my honor to be here this evening to update you on the activities that have taken place as part of the transformation of our bilingual education model. But before I do that, I would like to also maybe introduce those individuals too, because this is work that is taking place at the campus level as part of a larger whole. So they're daunting, to say the least, on this front row. Yes, I'll introduce them and have them stand. Yogi Rascon, Lewisville Elementary. Jimmy Crockett at Lakeland Elementary, Donna Taylor, Assistant Principal at Wellington, Dr. Robin Mackey, a Principal at Wellington, Judy Myers, Principal at Parkway, Julie Sheriff, Principal at Southridge, Rod McGinnis, Principal at Creekside, Patricia Cheatham, Principal at Vickery, Tony Hall, Principal at Peters Colony, and Teddy Winslow, Principal at Independence Elementary. Yeah, gonna get away. Raul Pena, Principal at Central Elementary. Miss Evers, Assistant Principal at Vickery. Oh man, I almost made it all the way through to the end. I should get some reward. And then we have 2 people that work with me, Susan Wren and Kathy Holly, who have been great help for me. So I have to publicly appreciate their help, because none of the things that we're going to talk about next would even be possible without their support. So, and anytime you feel like you have any questions you want to ask them, or guys, if you have anything that I have left out, please feel free to join me here or from where you are. So, thank you. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is the actual program goal that we have for the dual language program. It is our goal to develop fully bilingual and biliterate students at the end of 5th grade, able to participate in advanced academic courses in both Spanish and English at the secondary level. We have worked in 3 particular areas this year. We had the great support of the new superintendent to help us spend a year in planning so that we can be sure that we have everything in order before we actually begin the transformation at the campuses. And we focused our work in 3 areas. We worked with the prospective teachers that would be coming on board and instructing in the program next year at the kindergarten and in some cases 1st grade level. The administrators took a great leap of faith and decided to educate all of the teachers that work at those individual schools and in those grade levels so that they could build capacity across the grade level. So not 1 or 2 people are being trained or being involved in the professional learning. Actually, all of the teachers that work at those levels are being part of the professional learning that's taking place. The second area we focused on were the administrators. The group behind you have participated in collaboration and learning communities. They meet once a month to talk about how this is working logistically, if we're ready to go and the resources are set in place, and to look and tour the 3 existing campuses, Central, Peters Colony, and Independence. And then campus attendance zones, we've had to date about 9 meetings where we have worked with the individual campuses and the communities that are in those attendance zones. The first
piece of work that we did, the largest piece, is that we have about 85 teachers that are participating. So like I said, it's all the kindergarten teachers at each one of these schools, in addition to the first grade levels if the principal so chose, from Southridge, Creekside, Lakeland, Lewisville, Parkway, Vickery, Hedrick, and Wellington. All of those teachers are learning together as a larger community about the principles of dual language and the impact that will have on their classroom. We held our first set of learning at Central Elementary campus. Mr. Pena was very gracious and opened up his multi-purpose room to us, as well as the halls. And the teachers were able to walk and learn from each other about dual language and the logistics of it all. We had also integrated planning design. It takes a lot of strategic thinking and strategic planning in order to pull off something of this size, and so the integrated planning design was very important for the teachers to be a part of. In February, we have upcoming learning walks at Peters Colony. Ms. Hall is going to host. The teachers for the next round will do the same. We're going to be talking about language contents and content objectives for the classroom. Lots of learning going on with the teachers. At this point in time, in the model, you're in a co-teach partnership. The principals have not selected who those teachers are going to be yet, because we want to make sure that everybody's understanding and everybody's desire to be a part in the education in this type of instructional model is there. So learning walks been very, very busy for the dual language perspective teachers. The campus administrators, as I said earlier, they meet every month. We've had 6 meetings so far, and we've toured 3 campuses where we currently have the dual language program: Central, Peters Colony, and Independence. And we spend a lot of time talking about what the impact is going to be as we transform from our old bilingual education model to this new model. And their support this evening is just invaluable. I appreciate them so much, because they make my job very, very easy on a daily basis. Then we have the communities where the schools will be changed, and the ability to elect to have your child participate will be opened. And we have 32 scheduled informational meetings, and we're adding and we're taking away and we're moving according to how the community's response has been, which has been very good. We are doing a minimum of 3 to 2 meetings at each campus. We're making very sure that we try to connect with every zone and every community where there might possibly be potential kindergartners for next year, because we want every parent who wants to participate in this opportunity to have that choice to learn about it. In doing that, we've had meetings in the evenings, Monday and Tuesday, to accommodate the work schedules, as well as on Saturdays in the mornings and the afternoons. And once again, the principals come and open their schools and are a vital part of those community meetings. We're promoting kindergarten registration at the same time. That's something that we are looking at streamlining as a process and getting more kids into our kindergarten programs. And so we have looked at this as also a way to recruit children to come into LISD, into kindergarten. And that would be all that I have. Did I miss anything, guys? Okay. All right. So if you have any questions or anything else that I can answer for you, we have had a very, very busy first half of the year, as you can see. And we look forward to being able to launch this in the fall.
Thank you. Board?
Quick question. I move in a neighborhood sometime this next spring. My daughter will start kindergarten, let's say Parkway next year. Is this a choice or an option for her?
You speak English or Spanish? Or
English.
You speak English. It's a choice for you. It's a choice for you. We'll talk about what...
Is it an option next fall?
Yes, sir.
It'll be in, okay.
Yes, sir. It will be. It will go live on all of these campuses in the fall for kindergarten.
If I had to sell that to, if I'm trying to sell that to a parent in the neighborhood, what are some of the selling points? Besides the obvious.
It creates stability in the learning communities in the schools. Parents choose to have their children participate, and so the mobility rates are decreased as a result of the participation. It creates parent ownership and collaboration between the school and the community. So that's one of the obvious side effects.
If she starts in kindergarten, goes all the way through 5th grade, the expectation would be she could speak fluent Spanish at that point in time, or?
The expectation is she will absolutely be on her way. She'll be she or he, would be well-schooled in...
I use she as an example. But
She is an example. Will be well-schooled in their academics, both in English and in Spanish. She will be able to go into our middle school AP Spanish program and be successful and continue her learning.
Okay,
And we
that was
are
my next
currently
question.
working on what our middle school is going to look like in order to best meet the needs of those kids that come through a program like this.
So there's a resource at the middle school level so they don't lose it then
Yes,
at
sir.
that point.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a couple of questions. If I understand this correctly, if I have an English-speaking child, first priority for a kindergarten position is for the students who are at the school where the program is offered.
That is correct.
But if, say, I have a future kindergarten student who has been in a dual-language pre-K program, but their home school is not one of the schools listed where this program will exist, can they apply if there are openings at that campus for open enrollment to move their child to that campus if they provide transportation?
Yes, yes.
And how is that information being communicated? Is it only on an as-needed basis, or is it in the kindergarten roundup information? I've had a couple of community members actually ask me because their children are at like a Spanish schoolhouse, and
Yes.
they'd like to continue that opportunity, but it's not at their elementary school. So
We are using a variety of mediums to disperse the information, both through the campuses. Beginning this next month, we'll be part of the kindergarten registration, kindergarten roundup. Ms. Holly has done a lot of work with the preschools in our area. She meets with the directors of those preschools to try to get that information out in a timely manner. It is one of the things that we're asking the participants to do is to register their child in kindergarten in order to have a slot in the program. So we have a lot. At some of the meetings, we've even had the private preschool parents come in to learn more about it because they want to be a part of that. So I think we're reaching them based on the responses that we've seen, but we still have the whole month of March left to get the message out.
Ms. Latham?
First, a point of clarification.
Speaking to the mic.
They're having great fun because I can't talk.
Oh, wow.
But I would like to remind them I can still throw things.
May I sit down then?
Yeah. This is an informational item today. Does that mean we will have a discussion item next month?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, this isn't something we're voting on. We're just updating the board on what we're doing.
Okay. Then I have some questions. Hang tough.
Okay.
There was concerns brought to us about the materials being translated into English for this program. How many bilingual people are translating the science materials?
We currently have contracted services that are working with our in-district. We have an in-district translator that we go to first that works for us full-time in our school district that translates. When the volume of work exceeds what she's able to do in a timely manner, we have it contracted with services outside of the district in order to get all of those things done to the classroom. I'm sorry, your other question was how many what? I'm sorry?
How many bilingual people are translating science materials?
We currently have all those science materials issued out to contracted services. So to my knowledge, as far as what teachers are doing it, I'm not familiar with the names of the teachers.
So when this program is ready to go next fall, right?
At kindergarten, yes.
All the materials will already be translated.
We don't necessarily translate all of the materials. We look for resources in Spanish that are already in Spanish, and so we purchase those materials as they become available. If we're looking for parity, a one-to-one parity, what you're going to find is that even in Texas, not everything is one-to-one, so I don't have this one book and this one book exactly matching. We look for good Spanish literature, and we purchase that authentically. We don't try to match it one-to-one. We don't have as many resources nationally or in Texas as what we do in English because of just the market is not there. As bilingual programs such as this have grown, vendors have found a way to make money to to build their capacity for Spanish. So as those materials become available, we purchase those.
But it was my understanding that this program, dual language, that, and Penny, help me if I get derailed, if we're talking about A, B, and C in English on day 1, day 2, we're talking about D, C, E, F, G in Spanish. So you would have to have the same materials, right?
It doesn't have to necessarily be the exact same materials, but it has to be the exact same content. So, for instance, we might have a book the children are reading in English on one day, and they're looking at sentence structure. And then in Spanish, the next day, they would not repeat the lesson because then they'd only get half a year of learning. But they could look at the Spanish sentence structure using different Spanish materials. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, for instance, in the math book, we have math books that are whatever you're doing on day 1 in English, you can pick it up. Children walk into the next classroom, the teacher can literally say, "And as we were saying yesterday," and they just pick it right up. It's seamless.
Ms. Latham, we try to not ask teachers to translate as much as we can because we do have the service in-house. It doesn't preclude them from translating if they feel like there's something in their classroom that they would like in Spanish and they don't want to necessarily wait through that process. So I'm a former bilingual teacher, and so I didn't think anything twice if I wanted to use something the next day, preparing that for my students because I know my students and I know what type of resources I wanted to use, but I still had the resources available to me from the district. So when you ask that question, I don't have any exact counts of teachers or how much the teacher created pieces simply because we don't monitor that in our district.
Another question I have, Jeff asked if he's new to the neighborhood and he speaks English. Is this an option? Okay, I'm new to the neighborhood and I speak Spanish. Is this an option?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we will still have ESL services.
In the dual language program, 50% of your time, if you're a Spanish speaker, is ESL.
What if I opt out of the dual language? Is there still ESL programs?
If you opt out of the dual language program, you're basically signing a refusal of services. And as far as legally, the district, we don't have to serve you because you refuse services. So it's not
really an option.
It's an option.
Actually, we still do have some transitional bilingual classes, if that's what you're asking. For instance, if it's new on a campus, and we might have 2 classes that are dual language, one Spanish speaking, one English speaking, but there might be 2 other classes, one might be English and one might be bilingual transitional. And so the students could go into that bilingual transitional class if that's available as well. Traditional bilingual language classes do serve both Spanish and ESL. But if parents refuse services, then children are to be placed in the English class where they have English, not English as a second language.
Okay, but we would still have to have ESL services because we have some kids who speak Chin.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So they're not really refusing services, they're refusing your program.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking specifically about Spanish speakers.
Well, I am, but it should be the same for Spanish or Chin or Bulgarian or Chinese.
If the Chin students want to come in and participate, they're more than welcome to do that. They come in as an elective because they don't qualify on the Spanish side of the house. In Texas, the law is that if you're a native Spanish speaker, we're required by law to provide them Spanish native language support. For the Chin students, we're required to provide them ESL services. They can get those ESL services in the dual language program if they elect to participate.
But if a Spanish-speaking family does not opt into this program,
Into the dual language program.
I don't understand how they're refusing services. They're just refusing the program. We're still going to have ESL services.
When you refuse a service, you don't get to choose what service you're refusing. If our model is the dual language program and that's how you're going to receive your ESL services, there's a form that you have to sign that says, I don't want my child in anything, basically.
So you are using this program to replace the Spanish ESL services? That's what, yeah. Because if they don't
No.
opt in, if they don't opt into this program, then they have to sign a refusal of service saying, and because we are saying the dual language program is going to replace our former Spanish ESL programs.
I think our confusion is this. On most of the campuses, we'll start with 2 classrooms. One will be English, which is an ESL classroom for the Spanish-speaking students. And the second class will be the bilingual dual language. Now, they probably have more than just 2 classes within the grade level. And so there will probably be other transitional bilingual classes on the campus that year that children may, if a child didn't go into the dual language program, he or she could go into the transitional bilingual class.
Let me see if I understand. Are you saying that, and maybe I'm not understanding what you're asking, that there's a Spanish ESL program that they don't receive any native language support in?
I speak Spanish. I just moved to the neighborhood,
Right,
and I don't want to opt into the dual language program.
right.
I would just rather go to transitional language classes and receive normal ESL services.
The transitional is a bilingual program. It's all in Spanish. I think that's where the confusion is. A transitional bilingual program is a self-contained teacher that's bilingual that's teaching in Spanish the majority of the time.
Let me reword this. Does the dual language program replace the ESL services?
No.
Okay.
As I understand your question, I got to get that last piece in there. As I understand your question, Ms. Latham. Yes. Please, Ms. Hall. And you got to come to the mic. Got to come to the mic. I know, I'm sorry.
You have to come to the mic or it won't get recorded, Ms. Hall.
I got a nice big voice here. I don't know if this will help at all, but at Peters Colony Elementary, we do have the dual program. We also have, all our teachers are ESL certified. So if they choose not to go into the dual language program where they're acquiring both languages, then they go into a regular classroom. And all our teachers have to have their ESL certification prior to being teachers at Peters Colony. So the services that we're providing for all students in those classrooms use the ESL strategy. So we're supporting acquiring good, strong language, the English language in those classrooms. So they're not, if they don't go into the dual program, they're not just being placed in a classroom so that there's not differentiation for language per se. And most of the campuses, I believe, and I may be speaking out of turn, but if you have the bilingual program on your campus, then the teachers are required, or they will be required, I believe, and I may be speaking, encouraged to have their ESL certification, because I do understand what you're saying. We do have parents come in, they don't want their children to, even though I would strongly disagree, they want their children to just acquire English and move forward with it. And those children do go in those ESL classrooms. They're not per se ESL classrooms, but the teachers are ESL certified so that they can support the methods that they need to acquire English, but they don't have the benefit of having the acquisition or maintaining that first language.
So they're not refusing services if they don't go into the program, that we still have services for them.
We have services, but they're refusing, say, the state compliance model that we have at Lewisville, or that we're acquiring in Lewisville. But for instance, if they were taking the TELPAS test, they're still considered ELL children, so they're still assessed as English language learners. They're just not acquiring or not maintaining that first language while they're acquiring the second. It's just a different way to look at kids, but we're not denying anybody. It's just a choice that the parent makes, if that helps a little bit.
Yeah. The other question I had is, what kind of community support have you had how many parents are coming to your meetings? And it kind of mimics what Julie was saying. How are you getting the word out? Because I haven't heard anything other than what I hear at the district.
We have approximately had about 80 some odd parents that have come out so far.
Combined for all the schools or at one school?
Combined for all the schools. We haven't finished all of the meetings, so that number will absolutely change, or the total will change. The principals have put it on their marquees, it's on their Facebook, it's in their school messengers, flyers. We've sent flyers home. What else am I missing? PTAs. So they're communicating with their populations currently right now.
I believe I saw that it was on Hedrick's marquee, March 5th. I made a note. I didn't make the time, didn't see the time, but March 5th, I'd like to plan to come to that one.
Great to have you, Ms. Gregg. Also, too, we're going to work with the communications office when we get ready to launch the larger I guess, call for interested people. We've had other people, other parents from outside of the zones, like come to Parkway, or they've heard from different people and want to come and hear about it. We'll have more of a formalized way for them to do that if you don't attend any one of these campuses, so that if you are interested in having your child participate and you're willing to bring them, you have a way to access that information as well. We just have not had those meetings to date, because we're still going to meet through February and March. 1st of April is when we do kindergarten registration.
So are there any other parent meetings coming up?
About 20.
Yeah, March 5th, join me at Hedrick.
All right.
We've got, we have a series of them. Each one of the campuses have had at least 2 to 3 evenings, and on Saturday as well.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think being bilingual is a plus. I'm just sad that all students are not able to take Spanish from kindergarten up through middle school and then choose their language. My concern, and this is what I want to make sure, that the teachers and the schools get what they need, the resources, because a lot of times when we go out there and something new, and this is a big undertaking with so many schools, but it definitely will benefit our students. So thank you very much. Next, we're down to the discussion items. Rezoning unpopulated area south of Highway 121.
Yes, ma'am. Just a reminder, this was an item that we put in front of you for the first time at the board workshop recently. So I asked Mr. Ellington, Executive Director of Student Services, to come sort of briefly explain. This does deal with the unpopulated area south of 121. So.
Hi, Madam President, board members, Dr. Waddell. I believe you have a map of what we're talking about tonight. A little bit of the background for this reasoning. In 2020, Hebron High School is projected to have 4,200 plus children. The Colony High School in 2020 is projected to have a little over 1,800 kids. That was before the city of Carrollton just rezoned 300 acres in Hebron's attendance zone from light industrial to multifamily and single-family detached. So that's 300 acres, which is a considerable amount of homes that is not in the projections when we had the demographic study done. Another reason we'd like for you to look at this now is because the area that we're talking about is unpopulated at this time. There is a 350 apartment complex that has just broken ground that is in this area we're talking about, as well as Mr. Chris Bright. I met with him last week, and there's 400 lots that will come into production in the middle of 2013 that he will put homes on, which the homes that he will be putting there will generate a lot of kids for us. And so we'd like for you to look at this and think about rezoning this unpopulated area to the Colony High School from Hebron High School.
Questions?
I have a question, Mr. Ellington. What you say unpopulated, are there any residents in this area now?
At present time, there is one subdivision called Castle Hills North. It has 78 students in it, K through 12. There are presently 16 students that are 8th through 11th grade, which we would ask the board to grandfather into Hebron High School if you choose to do this.
That being the case, would we not have to have a public hearing on it?
Yes, sir. If that's what you choose to do, public hearings are not required by law. We've always done that out of the generosity of the school board. So that's something that we would have to schedule if you choose us to do that after you've made a decision on whether this is something you'd like to consider.
We'll do what you wish. The difference being, from the past, is we'll have 3 meetings on this before it's approved, and that has not been the case in the past.
One more question. Any idea the cost, the price of the housings of the apartment complexes, or if they're seniors, or any information?
It will not. It will be something similar to the apartments for families that have small children in them. The price point on those apartments will be in such an area that we'll probably get a lot of kids out of them.
Okay.
Have we at least communicated to those people who already do live there our intentions?
We have not communicated to them at this time, no. I wanted to wait for direction, and then we will communicate that to them.
We will?
Oh, yes, we will definitely communicate it to them before any decisions are made. Okay. You're welcome.
Now we're down to the discussion items. TASB Policy Update 92. Dr. Haynes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this item is coming to you for second reading or consideration as a discussion item. As a result of our legislative action from last spring, this is a final bit of information that TASB is providing for us in regards to reduction in force. And the essence of what the additional latitude that the state is allowing for school districts, if you're looking at the discussion item at the bottom of the page, it provides the superintendent additional options to reduce costs in the district, and those are listed, could be salary reductions, furloughs, and other means of reducing personnel cost. However, as I stated last month, and I will state again because nothing has changed, there is no move by the district at this point in time to enact a reduction in force for the 2012-13 school year.
Thank you. Board, any questions, discussion? Hearing none. The Aquatic Center, Dr. Burnett.
Madam President, members of the board, this was an exciting time about 3 weeks ago when our design committee met with our SHW architects and with our new construction department and began the the design of the Aquatic Center. And we have Michael Perry, I'd like to invite him to the podium to recognize our design team and also introduce our SHW architects, and they'll give you an overview of where we are with the schematic design.
Thank you, Dr. Burnett. Dr. Waddell, Madam President, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity tonight to come in front of you. Our goal tonight is to provide you an update of the progress that we've made on the Aquatic Center. I think it's an outstanding facility. As Dr. Burnett referred to, our process really began back on approximately January 11th and 12th. We held a 2-day design meeting here in Bolin, upstairs in our large meeting space, referred to as a charrette process. We had members of the community. We had student swimmers specifically, our coaching staff, our staff and administration, and I can tell you that the input from all those different groups was very exciting. Initially, I was concerned. You're getting people with a different look on things coming from different angles, but I can tell you that when the final product is put together, it's a product that we've had a lot of input from a lot of different people on. And would like to thank you for the opportunity tonight to do that. We've invited those people. I did receive a lot of emails back. A lot of them had previous obligations. But if you're here tonight and you're a member of our charrette committee, if you would please stand. it took a lot of time on their part to be part of a 2-day process that I know our design team worked into the wee hours of the night and came back very early the next morning. So having said all that, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Aldis. Jonathan is with the SHW Group. He'll walk you through the schematic design of our new aquatic center.
Good evening. I'd echo what Mr. Perry said. I think Dr. Burnett has put in your agenda the list of these people who served, and from our standpoint, we'd like to thank you again for having that many people involved. It sounds like a bit of a circus, and I think they would say it probably was for the first part of the first day, but I think inevitably you're ending up with a much better project than we ever could have come up with your community input. Very briefly, as Michael alluded to, the first part of the day with that committee, we spent establishing goals, and I've captured a few of them here. When I say a few, this is about a third. These are the ones that kind of jumped out at me today, and we'll hit some of these as you look at the floor plan that you have in front of you. One of the ones that was vocalized by this board and again by the committee that I don't have up there is learn the lessons from the Eastside Aquatic Center, and so you'll hear some of those tonight as well. But some of the ones that you'll see up there is allowing for community use, this facility being recognized as a fast water venue. We're learning a lot about what that means, and we can talk about that if you want to really learn about swimming, but your coaches would be happy to talk with you about that as well. So you'll see a lot of the goals that we're aiming for in the facility, and again, we're at the schematic level. So tonight we want to show you just the general organizational concept of the building and address any issues you might have to help tweak this design further as we move toward design development. The site that we are discussing and have been discussing is the Ben Harmon campus, the Lewisville High School Ben Harmon campus site. It makes a lot of sense for a few reasons. Predominantly, it's right off of Round Grove Road, as you well know, which is easy. When you think about a swim facility, you need people from out of town finding you very easily. While the Eastside Aquatic Center is great, it is tucked away kind of behind Home Depot, and you have to know where you're going. This campus makes a lot more sense for that purpose. Additionally, there's these wonderful 900 parking spaces already on the site of the Harmon campus. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of the feedback we heard was on swim meet days, especially at the other facilities, you have parking everywhere but on the concrete. The concrete is full and people are in anything around there. This gives us the ability to make use of that infrastructure that you already have in place. And this site was master planned with a natatorium space holder on the site as a provision for it, and that just happens to be the location of it as well. So what we're proposing right now is a few additional parking spaces right in front of the facility. This larger bank of parking spaces are the ones that are existing now. I know you're kind of trying to follow me on your screens, and it's a little bit hard to show you, but that's the general organizing concept. Addressing some of just good solar design, this building is designed to be turned where the shorter dimensions are east and west to cut down on your solar heat gain, turning your dimensions north and south. We're hoping to capitalize on the north side, and you'll see when we get inside the building, drawing in light from the north, which is indirect light, which is good light as long as it's not direct, which allows us to cut back. We've had a lot of discussions about saving energy cost. One of the energy costs, obviously, that goes in the building is lighting the facility. So all the borrowed northern lights you can get just makes good sense for a building like this. I believe you have the floor plan in front of you. Let me quickly talk about the water. You're seeing what appears to be 3 separate pools here. If you've been in the colony, you realize the colony has one pool. Essentially, the colony has this pool, this center portion, or the Eastside Aquatic Center. Forgive me, I'm interchangeably using them. I'll try and say Eastside Aquatic Center. The Eastside Aquatic Center has this one pool, which is a 50-meter pool. It allows for 2 heats to be run. What you see here are actually 3 movable bulkheads. Similar to what you have at the colony, you actually have 2 there. What we've talked about with the committee is 3, and that serves several purposes. These 2 6-foot bulkheads actually, for a swim meet configuration, would move to the middle of this water, and it would allow you 2 8-lane heats to be happening concurrently. And there's another 8-foot bulkhead that separates the diving well. If you've been in Eastside, you realize the diving well is actually at one end of the competition pool. When we talk about fast water, and the coaches will echo this, it's highly sought after to have a uniform depth throughout every lane. In other words, the swimmer in lane 1 has the same depth water for the duration of their course as the swimmer in lane 8. What's unusual about this facility that you won't see in a lot of others in the Metroplex, quite honestly, often to save space, that diving well is situated somewhere in the middle of this main pool water, and that works when you hold a diving meet and a swimming meet on 2 concurrent days. You swim one day and you dive the second day. One of the goals you might have noticed up there
was wanting to develop a stronger diving program. One way to do that is to allow a swim and diving meet to happen concurrently, that both divers and swimmers can be at the same meet. So this pool is designed with that in mind. So you have a dedicated diving well portion of the pool. That's a 13 to 14-foot section of the pool. A fast water section of the pool, which is more uniform depth around the 8-foot all the way across, and that is what you have at the Eastside Aquatic Center. But also, if you've been there during the day and you've seen your younger students taking their swim lessons, Ms. Fowdy's been there, she's noticed this, obviously. That 8-foot water is not conducive, one, to tiny people in the water. They're in life jackets. Their instructor's in a life jacket. Even their instructor can't touch the ground. And what's more, that water temperature is driven around athletes who are inevitably hot no matter how cold you make the water. So generally, that water runs 78, 79 degrees. Not real pleasant if you're doing swim lessons or therapy of any kind. So another differentiating factor with this pool compared to the others is a separate pool, and this actually is a separate pool that allows us to control the temperature separately, maybe run that between 82 and 85 degrees. This is more of a warm-up, cool-down pool. It allows us to have 3 to 4 lanes across, same width as a pool. It's a 25-yard dimension across, but that runs more of a 3 to 4 foot depth, and that allows you to teach your younger swimmers in this pool. It also allows, you saw a goal about community use, in terms of access for all of your athletes. This isn't just about your aquatic sports. You have a lot of athletes who would benefit from water rehab, and this separate pool runs at a little bit warmer temperature, and that's more beneficial for those that are undergoing low-impact water rehabilitation of injuries. All of your athletes, possibly community use as well, in terms of swim lessons happening there. What we see this used for a lot in other communities is teaming up with local senior citizens groups who have access to this. A wheelchair ramp into the water allows for water aerobics, and it truly becomes a true community use in that pool. So one of the primary differences you'll notice, this is the water that you have at Eastside. You've gained this water of the two separate pools. This was easily a half-day's discussion to get us to this point of the water that was necessary, but that began to drive the rest of the building very quickly, because I know you have other things to get to tonight. If you'll remember, this is the northern face. You'd be entering from this parking lot. Immediately upon entering, there's a director's office and the receptionist. All of this that you're seeing is on one level. If you've been to the east side, you have a split level where you go down about 3 feet to the pool deck. After much discussion, this is all one deck. This is all one level deck, and you'll see the seating is above this. So if I come in as a visitor and I'm in for free swim, or if I'm a member of the community, my dressing rooms are right here after checking in at reception. Dressing room, showers, and toilets are right here and straight onto the pool deck, but I'm checked in before I get into the facility. If I'm a student swimmer, I am completely separated from this, and your student athletes will be in boys and girls dressing, which are immediately off of the pool deck. So they dress and they're back onto the pool deck. One other feature of this is a community classroom or meet management, not a meet management room, but more of a ready room and a hospitality room on meet days. It is divisible because often we don't need the whole size of this room, but on meet day, there's need for a ready room and a hospitality room. This can serve as that. It's accessed off of a back corridor as well, so it has access to the pool deck. But if this space were just being used by a group, they frankly could use it off of this corridor and not have access to the pool deck if that's what you decided. The coaches, this facility again is currently designed for 3 high schools to share this facility. Lewisville, Marcus, and Flower Mound High School would share a coaching suite, again, right inside the doors onto the deck, so they also can monitor everyone who's on the deck as their swimmers arrive. They know who's there, and they have a separate men's and women's restroom and shower areas off of their space. We have a small group of men's and women's toilets for public use downstairs, but one thing we've heard a lot of feedback on is during large meet days, if you have 1,100 swimmers, for instance, the lobby gets terribly congested. And so what we've tried to do is actually split some of the fundamental uses of the lobby, which is restrooms, concessions, and just lobby space. What you're seeing on the ground level is the lobby space. On meet days, these stairs are where I head to get to my seating. And up above, approximately 12 feet above the pool deck, is where that first row of bleachers are located. What we've done is split them to 3 separate levels. Concessions is actually at an intermediate level, so if I come up those stairs, the concession area is here, and I can actually grab a drink, I can grab my food, and I can be on the upper deck and not in front of anyone's seating area here and still not be up on the upper level, and then the restrooms are actually up on the level above that. All seating has access from the rear down to the front. There is no front cross aisle. If you've been in the new Lewisville High School gym, it's similar. All the seating is entered from the back. What that allows you to do is the person on the front row is literally right at the front row. Unlike football, where you can wait for a quarter or halftime, during a swim meet, people are constantly moving. So while this seems like a great seat if there's a cross aisle, it really isn't, because there's always traffic moving. So we've eliminated that cross aisle and put all of the access to this from the back. One thing I neglected to mention on the ground floor was a weight room that's in this portion, slightly larger than the East Side Aquatic Center. And then as we talk with the coaches, they actually, we'll give them credit for a great idea here. What we're proposing is seating for 1,200 on this upper level in comparison to 850 at your prior facility. A large portion of that are fixed bleachers, but this portion we would propose to be retractable bleachers. What that would allow this to do is those bleachers could retract to this column line that you're seeing, and then this area could be used for what we've termed dryland exercises. A lot of what the coaches do in conditioning is stuff that doesn't have to happen in a weight room. It can happen with more manipulables that can be stored underneath these fixed bleachers. So when there isn't a full meet in progress, which is the bulk of the time that building is open, these bleachers can be retracted, and through a set of stairs off of the pool deck, a coach can have swimmers in the water and swimmers up in the dryland exercise area and keep an eye on both groups at one time. And this area gets dual usage. When you have a large meet, all that equipment gets pushed underneath the permanent bleachers, the retractable bleachers come out, and you now see 1,200. So those are the organizing concepts. Again, more men's and women's toilets upstairs. Not necessarily the most fun part of the building, but we've tried to learn everything we could from the colony, take all the goals you saw, and again, you saw a third of the goals. As we move forward, some of those goals are they're going to have to be prioritized, because another goal that Dr. Waddell pointed out, and we come back to, is there is a budget as well. And so as we work around that goal wins, and we work the other goals to that amount. We have a certain amount to spend, and that's what we'll work to. I know it's a little bit difficult I think you may not have this image in your packet, but I know the floor plan's hard to read, so let me show you very quickly. If you were standing on the southern side looking across, these are the fixed bleachers we were talking about. These are the retractable. I talked about taking all the northern light we could and through here. And then this is the concession area on this deck level, and you can see one more deck level up to come in on top of the seating. That gives you an idea of the scope and scale. This is the director's office, and this is the entrance onto the pool deck. This would be the weight room. Again, this is all schematic. You may see when we come back at the April board meeting for design development, some of these things may have moved around a bit, and the spaces, the sizes may have been massaged a bit, but this is the general organizing concept of it. Now, we have a challenge architecturally as well. We're obviously on the Harmon campus, and so the language of the building is already set, so to speak, but it needs to stand alone as well. So we've left this nice white mass for you to look at right now. Obviously, the easiest thing is for the brick and the materials to match. That's very much in flux right now, but this gives you at least a concept of sort of the front door entry. That was the stair tower that you saw. These other stairs that you see are primarily exit stairs off of the back of the seating area. This is modeled at, I think, 7:30 in the morning. The goal of this is to prove that we're getting no direct light into that side of the building. Ton of reflected light, but no direct light. I failed to mention as well, one thing that came up is when we need overflow space on this deck. When you have 1,100 swimmers here, this is a crowded deck, no matter how large you make it, and it's a substantial deck. What we're proposing now is a southern covered area immediately off of the pool deck, not enclosed, just roofed over and covered, and we'll develop that idea a little bit more, so that swimmers, when they're not swimming, when they've cooled down and they're waiting for their next heat, and it happens to be an hour or two away, can simply step outside and get off of the deck, maybe grab some food and not be on the pool deck. Similarly, there's a covered area on the north side of the building as well. If you were to take the rest of the siblings and sit through a swim meet for 4 or 5 hours, this area becomes sort of a necessary escape to get everybody outside the building. So both groups would have an area to get outside the building. You don't over-design the building. You design some overflow space, and they're still segregated as well. Swimmers on one side and public on the other, which is just generally a good concept to keep them separated. So with that, I tried to be brief, but if I missed anything, please let me know. I'll answer any questions I can.
We've got just a couple. You mentioned cost savings was a consideration there. If we looked at any alternative energy sources and done any analysis to where we could say, you know, solar's big, we've looked at putting solar panels up there, it just doesn't pan out. Here's something to show where it doesn't
I
wind,
wouldn't-
water
I would-
recapture.
Absolutely. I think we're at the point now where we can begin that. I'll answer that preliminarily. I think the preliminary budget, and you may have seen it even, a very preliminary run at putting solar hot water heating and solar array. There's two different types of solar, one for lighting and one for heat, one for electricity, one for hot water heating. The initial estimate that an energy provider put together was around 1.3 million for initial cost, which when you look at the payback was about a 16-year payback cycle on it. To me, that's getting right in that range for me, where maybe when we look at the degradation of a cell after 15 years is pushing it. So to answer your question a little indirectly, yes, we've begun that discussion, but there is an upfront cost that goes with that. I wouldn't argue that they don't pay themselves back, but there is an initial investment that goes with it, and particularly in solar, it's not a cheap investment. With this orientation, though, and the slant of this roof, at least as it's shown, it is an ideal situation to do that. So if that were something the district wanted to pursue, this isn't designed so as to prohibit that, even if that were a future project, or maybe it's something as an alternate we put on this just to see what the price point is on it. That's the largest thing on a building like this that could make a difference, is solar capturing for PV and hot water heating.
Okay. Next question, and Dr. Burnett, you could probably answer this. You may not have it tonight, but have we looked at the impact this is going to have on our M&O budget going forward? Adding a facility like this, I assume it's going to be cheaper than operating costs for the current facility, so there'll be some savings there.
One of the assumptions that we've made is that when this facility is operational, that we will no longer support the Timber Creek facility, and those costs that are being spent there will be transferred over here to the budget.
And this would be operated at less cost, even though this is looks like a bigger facility, you would assume. And I know these are energy hogs.
We're not quite ready to say that. We're still vetting out that.
Okay.
As the building model develops further, this is drawn in a building modeling software that allow us to start modeling energy costs as we get a little bit further along. So we can answer that better as we get further.
I think one thing, though, is maintenance and repair of this older building over here versus this one would be a pretty immediate savings.
What was your thought process of the, what was your thoughts on the process of bringing in all the outside people? Was it helpful? Was it beneficial? Was it?
That is our preferred method. I've been doing schools for almost 17 years now, and the ones that we do with a larger group are many-fold better than those that we do on our own. We're just architects, but this was extremely productive. It's information gathering, so there's a lot of information you get, and you have to start prioritizing. But frankly, the coaches have been crucial. We even had a meeting again just this last week, and every time I meet with them, I'm surprised at what they have to offer us. So having even just beyond the coaches, I think, was beneficial. Your students, I will comment that the students who took part, often when students take part in these, they get a little bit intimidated by the group. I don't know what you do to your students, but frankly, they were not intimidated, and they spoke eloquently, and they spoke passionately. So I would commend you and say, I can't imagine having done this another way. This is the best method you could choose, and I think it's working really well.
Will that group stay together then as you work through this process?
I think the intention is. We're meeting with bits and pieces about certain, like the coaches were talking about timing equipment. We're meeting with them about timing equipment. But I think the intent of the committee is for us to meet back up with them and present design development with them and start showing them the fruit of their labor. I think that's only fair to keep them apprised of what's going on.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Next, the chair entertains a motion for the approval of the calendar for 2013. It's been moved by Ms. Latham, second by Ms. Kyer. Dr. Rogers? Well, let's do discussion first. Any discussion?
We might want to say which version we're considering the approval of, A or B.
Well, Dr. Rogers?
It's option B.
Recommendations
yes,
B.
B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, well, the motion is to approve the administration's recommendation for option B.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, to clarify the motion.
Okay.
Is everybody in agreement?
We've clarified the motion that we are taking the administration's recommendation of option B. Any discussion?
Dr. Rogers, it's just math, right? Start the fourth Monday in August.
Anyone?
And you got 177 days, and
Yes, sir. It's
Just
just
gonna-
math.
that's
I
it.
just wish it was that simple.
yeah.
If there's no discussion, all in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. Chair entertains a motion for the adoption of order calling 2012 Board of Trustees election for places 1 and 2.
Madam President, I move to consider adoption of order calling a 2012 Board of Trustee election for places 1 and 2.
It's been moved by Ms. Foudy, seconded by Ms. Latham. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. The chair entertains a motion to consider the joint election agreement and contract between Lewisville ISD and Denton County Election Administrator for the May 12th election.
So moved.
Ms. Foudy, seconded by Mr. Knapp. Any discussion? I did hear one thing. I had a question about something that I read. It said something about all of the early voting would be up in Denton, but then further on down, it said something about those places would be notified later. So
I believe.
I wonder why they would put that up there. That was a little confusing.
When I reread that, it was my understanding that they are just required to list the primary
list it.
voting location, and then
Exactly.
the other ones will come as they are settled
Right.
by the clerks and election administrators, correct?
Yeah. I read that, but at first I thought, wow, why would they do that? All in favor? It is unanimous. Chair entertains a motion for the approval of the mineral leases for the Kilo campus.
Point of procedure. Dr. Burnett, would you like us to read this resolution into the minutes?
Yes, sir, that'd be fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
I volunteered to do that for Ms. Latham, so we don't have to hear her.
thank you.
Resolution, because we love her voice, but it's just hurting tonight. Okay, back to business. Resolution for lease of minerals. Whereas the Board of Trustees, in accordance with Texas Education Code 11.153, have duly considered the leasing of a portion of the district's minerals known as the Kill 9th and 10th grade campus, and whereas the notice to lease the minerals at that location was published as prescribed by Texas Natural Resources Code 71.005, and whereas Titan Energy submitted a proposal to lease the district's minerals on the Kill campus, now therefore be it resolved that the mineral rights owned by the Lewisville ISD on the property known as the Kill campus be leased to Titan Energy in accordance with terms and provisions of the lease agreement as presented, and be it further resolved that Board President Verdell Gray be authorized as prescribed by Texas Education Code 11.153 to sign and execute the respective lease agreements. So moved.
Thank you. Been moved by Mr. Ferguson, seconded by Ms. Latham. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? It is unanimous. The chair entertains a motion for the approval of resolution supporting the State Commissioner of Education.
Madam President, I would like to read the following resolution into the minutes.
Okay.
North Texas Regional Consortium, resolution concerning high-stakes standardized testing of Texas public school students. Whereas standardized high-stakes testing is strangling our public schools and undermining any chance that educators have to transform a traditional system of schooling into an educational opportunity that prepares our students to be competitive on a global stage. And whereas the members of the North Texas Regional Consortium, NTRC, a group of high-performing school districts located in the North Texas area, are unanimously join Robert Scott, Commissioner of the Texas Education Agency, in his concern about the overemphasis on high-stakes testing and in his continuing support of high standards and local accountability. And whereas the NTRC agrees with a recent statement from Bill Hammond, President of the Texas Association of Business, that if we do not deliver a quality education system that prepares our students for college and careers, Texas's ability to attract new business, improve our economy, and maintain our competitiveness will surely falter. Our very prosperity as a state, its business, and its people stands in the balance. And whereas the NTRC disagrees with the idea that the path to success for all students is through more standardized tests, and strongly believes that introducing more tests that require students to memorize and fill out bubble answer sheets as a condition of graduation will continue to keep school districts from being able to reach the very goals upon which all Texans agree. And whereas the real work of delivering a quality education begins by changing what occurs in our classrooms every day. And whereas we believe in the tenets set out in creating a new vision for public education in Texas and are working to transform our districts through many means, including participation in the newly formed Texas Visioning Network through the Texas Association of School Administrators. And whereas our vision is for all students to be engaged in relevant learning activities that provide for student choice, and we embrace the concept that students can be more than consumers of knowledge. And whereas only by creating classrooms that foster and celebrate innovation, creativity, problem-solving skills, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking will we actually make progress toward developing the very skills that business leaders such as the Texas Association of Business desire in a rising workforce. And whereas imposing relentless test preparation and boring memorization of facts to enhance test performance is doing little more than stealing the love of learning from our students and assuring that we fall short of our goals. And whereas we do not oppose accountability in public schools and point with pride to the stellar performance of our students on every test the state has developed, but we believe that the system of the past will not prepare our students to lead in the future, and neither will the standardized tests that so dominate their instructional time and block our ability to make progress toward a world-class education system of student-centered schools with future-ready students. Therefore be it resolved that the NTRC calls on the Texas legislature to re-examine the public school accountability system in Texas and to develop a system that truly measures student learning against rigorous standards that will prepare them for their global futures without undermining the fundamental principles of good teaching or destroying students' innate love of learning. Passed and approved on this 13th day of February 2012. If approved. So moved.
Moved by Ms.
We have Commissioner Scott's exact statement in there that Drew, apparently what,
I want Dr. Waddell to speak to this
Okay.
because this is pretty exciting.
I will defer to Dr. Waddell then.
What this pertains to is a speech given by Commissioner Scott at the Texas Midwinter Conference 2 weeks ago, in which he spoke about the testing system, his own role in it. He went so far as to apologize for some of the things he did. His comments were that it's become a perversion of the original intent. The speech is available on several websites. We didn't include it as part of the packet, but I believe I did send that to you all as a form of communication so you could read it. Following upon that, the superintendents of the North Texas Regional Consortium, including myself, wrote a letter and signed it. And just for the public, that consortium is Lewisville, Northwest, Coppell, Frisco, McKinney, Allen, Richardson, Plano, and Highland Park. I think I got every one of them. And all the superintendents signed that letter in support of Commissioner Scott. And it was thought that it would be fitting for the 9 boards to also pass resolutions. All of the boards are going to be voting to pass this same resolution in, as soon as their board meetings occur. So they're all scheduled. They're either occurring or are scheduled to occur within this next week. So that's the basis of it. We really appreciate the commissioner and the stance he's taken for Texas school children, for our future, and we believe he deserves, as superintendents, we believed he deserved our support, which is why we wrote the letter. But I think it's a powerful statement for the local elected officials, the local school board members, to be able to also do that through this resolution.
A good statement. I think, in no way do we want to shirk accountability or say that we don't want any testing or standards or anything like that. But obviously, I agree with the commissioner that it's gotten completely out of hand from where we were 20 years ago. It's driving everything to do it. I think as Dr. Schlechte put it, the problem is kids aren't filling in bubbles right.
Yeah.
It seems to be what's driving our
Right,
people in
and
that
the
system
commissioner
saying,
did, in his speech, refer to the Texas Visioning Network and its work, and also Senate Bill 1557. So he pointed at that, in which the Senate Education Committee, in hearings last spring, before they passed it out of the Senate and on through the Senate and the House, and the governor signed it, that particular bill would be leading to a new accountability system, one which we think will work far better for our kids and getting ready for the kind of world they're going to be working and living in.
I'm excited about this because for the first time, educators are working to decide what is best for us out here in the field. For many, many years, all the reforms have always been by someone other than educators. But a group of 35, I believe, superintendents got together a few years ago and came up with this document. And when I first read it, I was extremely excited about it and said, this is it. We have needed this for a long time. I had no idea that it would move so quickly. But when the Senate passed Senate Bill 1557, that gave that document merit. And now we are a part of a network that we're trying to come up with something that is going to help us get rid of all of the things that we've been doing wrong with the testing that's shoved down our throats. So,
I think one more thing, Ms. Gregg, is significant. It's been a long time since local school boards have had an opportunity to stand as a united group and take back some control that's been, over the years, eroded away from local boards to both the state and now the national level. So for 9 school boards, especially of school districts as important and prominent as these 9 school districts, I think is a huge thing, and it's a strong statement about the importance of local control when it comes to educating our kids.
I agree. Any other discussion? Hearing none, you're ready for the vote? All in favor? It is unanimous. That's great. Do I hear a motion for the consent items?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
It's been moved by Mr. Ferguson, second by Ms. Kyer. All in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. Well, we're going to adjourn to go back into closed session. Or take a recess. We're going back into closed session. That ends our meeting, unless you want to stay.
Do you want to do the hearing first and then go into closed session, or do you want to go into closed session?
The hearing, or the people, Dr., well, I need to...
You said closed session, and then you call a recess.
I said closed session.
We can just go, we can come back out and do it. Whatever we want.
Because he threw the wrench in there, because I said closed.
Might be a good time for you to say something.
Will you?
You wanna say
Okay,
something?
I'll let you say it. It is 9:05, and we are reconvening. The chair entertains a motion to consider what we discussed in closed session.
Madam Chairman, I would be recognized for a motion. I move that we uphold the Level 2 administration decision.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Ferguson, seconded by Mrs. Kyer.
I'd like to speak to the motion, Madam Chairman. I think these cases always, when they come to us, it's obviously a difficult situation. We believe, obviously, the family is doing what they believe is best for their children. I believe all agreed in discussion that the school is doing the best it can to meet the needs of the student. And we obviously want to see the student succeed, but there have to be consequences for choices, and we have to look across the district to make sure that that we're enforcing those policies.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to make a statement that, Ms. Bowler, I appreciate your standing up for your child and wanting what's best for him. And whatever the decision is, right, from this board, we want the same thing. We want your son to be successful.
It is unanimous.
Good luck.
Okay, we will go. We will. You can stay out here and then we'll call you. Okay. 9:06. It is now 9:55, and we are reconvening.
Will you make a note that,
Mr. McDaniel had to leave, but the rest of us are present.
Point of order, yeah, he left before we went back into closed session.
Yes, okay. The chair entertains a motion for
Madam President, I move to extend the superintendent's contract for 1 year.
It's been moved by Ms. Fowdy, second by Ms. Latham.
I think we said everything in closed session, but just, good work, Dr. Waddell. Thank you.
Anything else? No further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. 6, Mr. McDaniels left before we went into closed session. The meeting is adjourned.
That's the second time we
Congratulations.
He's on.